Well, Whistle Watchers, how are you all? How have you been? Welcome back. As ever, I'm joined by my reliable co-host, Hugo Monnier. Hugo, you've been busy in the Women's Rugby World Cup, I believe. What are we covering this week?
Yes, Nigel, it's been a busy old week in the rugby space. We've got loads to cover off, so here's what's coming up. An electrifying start to the Women's World Cup took place in Sunderland, but the question is, was Aphelele unlucky to receive a yellow card? All this and more on this week's episode of Whistle Watch.
You've been busy, Hugo, here, there and everywhere. The Women's Rugby World Cup kicked off in Sunderland. So how have you found the opening weekend?
Oh, it's been brilliant. All kicked off, as you said, there at the Stadium of Light. I thought the Red Roses were sensational, but USA scored a worldie of a try from about 15 metres out. They got themselves back within a score of the Red Roses, but unfortunately Aphelele got sent to the sin bin for what was deemed to be a cynical action. A strong decision, but was it the right decision, Nigel?
Yeah, you have two things here, Hugo. First of all, you have the player clearly going off their feet, so you have a cynical offence there, and then comes the even more cynical one. If you're looking for an example to show players what not to do and what you can't get away with, and to show referees of what a cynical action is, then this would be a good example, because when she's off her feet, she then slaps the ball forward out of the hand as well. So a pretty straightforward, easy as you will get cynical offence here. So yeah, correct decision without a doubt.
No mitigation for Melina Salale. She was on the pitch only for 7 minutes. Got sent off-field review. She was initially given a yellow card, but was then upgraded to a red card. The correct decision for you, Nigel?
Yeah, I believe so, Hugo. You got the player running here. Look at the speed of the players. The player is running at high speed. Now, we all talk about referees giving a red or yellow card. There's debate about the bunker. The red card spoils the game. This is where we have the 20-minute red card. But if you look at these instances, it's all down to the player making the wrong decision, running in at speed and always upright. If you're going to do that, you are putting yourself in trouble and putting the opposition in danger as well. And it's the same in the men's game as well. This is where I would really like to see the players making a conscious effort, get lower to avoid this situation. So the referee sends the yellow card to the bunker. It comes back then as upgraded to the 20-minute red card, and correctly so. Running in at speed, high degree of danger, and therefore the correct decision. So please, players, get lower. Try and avoid this head contact. You'll stay on the field, and we'll also contribute to making the game safer as well.
I was at Northampton as Ireland took on Japan. Ireland scored a really good try from a driving maul. In fact, the referee awards it a penalty try and sent a Japanese player to the bin. Timo interjects, they review it. It's chalked off because the line-out lifter was in front of the Japanese player, blocking. Try gets chalked off. Yellow-carded player comes back onto the pitch. There was a lot to get through, wasn't there?
There was. I think the first thing to say here, the important thing is the outcome is correct. That's the important thing. The penalty try is rescinded, the player's yellow card comes back on. So the outcome is correct. And the reason why it's correct is because in that line out, the two Irish players, I believe it's 4 and 5, they obstruct. So they protect the ball carrier, preventing the defence from defending that maul. So, in taking that into account, there is now obstruction, which would be a penalty if it's felt it's a cynical or deliberate. If it's just an accidental obstruction, then it would just be a scrum. But the obstruction is deemed to be cynical. It's a ploy that teams do to protect the jumper, and therefore the referee then chalks off the penalty try, gets the yellow card, player backs on, and goes back, as we mentioned earlier, to the first offence, which is the obstruction. So the outcome here is correct. Good intervention by the TMO to pick this up. My only little critique for this and similar ones, it'd be great if they can get this on the field, because it prevents all the sort of drama and stop-start and TMO coming in, chalking something on, have to get a player back. Although it's correct, it'd be better if we could avoid it. So let's try and get it on the field so we don't land up with a scenario of this. But as I said, the important thing, the process, the TMO, good intervention, and the decision is correct to disallow the penalty try and get the player back on.
And Nigel, on that point, I think it's such a valid point. The unintended consequence of not seeing it live is, because Ireland went 3 tries clear at this point, Japan had a play put into the bin, and so the Ireland coaching staff subbed 3 players on the pitch. They thought the game is done. Within 60 seconds, the try's chalked off. Japan are back to 15. I wonder if they'd have made those changes had they known that the try wouldn't have been chalked off. So it's amazing how all of these pieces to the puzzle has an impact, not just on what happens in the game, but what the coaches might do with their bench. And I wonder now if coaches now look for another opportunity to substitute the players, knowing that you can get a TMO referral or review up until kick-off. You may just wait, hold your horses, make sure that try is totally legitimate, and then look to implement once a kick-off's been done, not before, just in case we get another situation like that.
Yeah, really, really important point.
Another really important point is the work that World Rugby do around player welfare, and we've seen it for the first time in this Women's Rugby World Cup. These flashing mouthguards, and we saw an incident of that and a prime example of that in the Australia-Samoa game.
Time's off. Girls, we have an HIA for blue number 6.
And that's the important thing here, is trying to make the game, and just remember, a physical, hard contact sport as safe as we possibly can. And this is just another tool in the armory to try and make the game as safe as we can, so we can identify any issues. I was refereeing a game on the weekend. It was an under-19s youth game to raise money for a young lad who's had a brain tumour operation. And it was a great occasion. And on that field, a player got a bang on the head, and the physio of the team and myself said, look, this doesn't look right, off you go. So don't take any chances, but obviously on the international stage, we have those extra tools to try and identify it and make it as safe as we can.
Really good to see how all of that work within that player welfare space live in action there. We'll be back, of course, right across this Women's Rugby World Cup to review all the big incidents across this tournament. We now turn our attentions to the Rugby Championships. In the opening 2 rounds, it's given us everything. We've had upsets, we've had great tries, we've had drama, but a couple of incidents that, Nigel, I'd love to get your opinions on. Argentina, historic win over New Zealand, and it was certainly made worse the All Blacks with Will Jordan, got his marching orders. Didn't look a lot in this incident. What was your take on it?
No, you're right. It didn't look a lot, but I think it's he knew exactly what he was doing. So what you have here, you have Argentina having a break down the field. So they're in a good attacking position going down the field. And if you look at what New Zealand 15 Will Jordan does, he then very, very cynically and cleverly just sort of steps across slightly and blocks Argentina 11. So therefore, a good pickup by the officials here, and I believe to be a correct yellow card as well, because I think the player knew what he was doing. He just did enough to put that player off. And therefore, because of the line break, because of the attacking opportunity, then it becomes a yellow card, not just a penalty.
Yeah, very good. Always award the attack for me. Severus, he certainly made things a bit more difficult as well. He got given a yellow card. My question is, whilst it felt and looked like a deliberate knock-on, how much do you play into your decision-making the fact that he was 45 metres out as well?
Yeah, well, look, if you go back to what we discussed in the women's game, the sort of cynical play, deliberately knocking the ball into the player's hand. So if you have a cynical action, even though there may be nothing happening, no momentum, no line breaks, that still can be a yellow card. So for me, I want you to put aside the fact, was it a line break, how far out they were, because if an action is cynical enough, it can be a yellow card irrelevant of where it is on the field. So what we have here, we have a line break opportunity by Argentina. Then we have the deliberate knock-on. So the referee will take into account now, was this action cynical? And if he felt the action itself wasn't cynical enough for a yellow card, in an isolated situation, he takes into account what was happening around it. Was there an overlap? Where on the field it was? Was an opportunity for a line break? If that pass had gone, were they going to be 30, 40 yards further upfield? So he'll take all of that into account. And in this instance here, they feel there was enough for a yellow card, and therefore it's not just a penalty with a deliberate knock-on, but a yellow card because of the cynical action and because what was happening around as well.
On the theme of cynical play, we've got an Emirates fan's question. Nigel, the Aussies were robbed of a comeback on the weekend. How's the cynical play in the acts of the O2 break missed?
We've heard the words Aussies robbed a few times in this Whistle Watch series, Hugo. I'm not saying that they were robbed in this game, but they certainly do have a very, very valued point here, and I do believe that there should have been a yellow card to South Africa 15, and this is the reason why. So we have a line break, a clear, great break by Australia, and then the other Australian player regathers the ball. Now he's tackled just short of the goal line, few metres out. Look at South Africa 15. What he needs to do, when he tackles a player, he has to release the player and the ball, then get to his feet before he can attempt to jackal that ball. Now what he does get back to his feet, but he never leaves that ball carrier go. So we definitely have a penalty. It's quite cynical as well because it's only a couple of metres out from the try line, and it's after a great break from Australia as well. So that incident alone should be a penalty and a yellow card as well. But look at South Africa 22 as well. What does he do very, very cleverly? As he's coming back, he runs across the tackle. So what he's doing now is preventing the Australian support player from getting there into regathering that ball or clearing out that illegal jackler. So we have two offences here. So Australia certainly are quite valued in their grievance point here. That's definitely should have been a penalty. Should have been penalty for either or of those, and definitely a cynical action and a penalty and yellow card against South Africa 15.
You can see why the Australian players would be frustrated, but the Australian fans are fuming quite clearly because the referee's got a clear line of sight and it happens pretty much within 1 or 2 metres. How does something like that get missed?
Yeah, unfortunately, Hugo, these things sometimes are missed no matter how obvious it may look to everybody else, because you're in that moment, you're focusing on something, and you may have a little bit of doubt. So the referee may well have, has he a clear release there or not? And because of that doubt, he chooses to play on. But yes, you should be seeing this. Something which is quite open, there's nothing in your line of sight, then we would certainly like the referees to pick this up. And the trigger here would be that line break. When you have a line break and you're approaching that goal line area into that red zone, your awareness and focus as a referee goes up another level. You really now have to switch on and looking ready for all the scenarios that may take place. But unfortunately, we do miss them. But yeah, we should be seeing stuff like this.
Well, Fassi did eventually end up getting a yellow card for a deliberate knock-on, which seems to be a current theme in this week's episode of Whistle Watch. Australia had a 4v1, but it's 50 metres out. Is it too far out to be able to give a penalty try?
It's not too far out. It's all to do with what happens next. Are the defenders, do you think the player who's 50 metres out would receive the ball? Would he probably have been caught or tackled? So let's put it to the example. Imagine a player is 50 metres out. I was going to say Brian Abana, but let's take another fast winger. Let's take Hugo Monnier. So Hugo Monnier gets the ball 50 metres out. The only players you've got there now who could catch Hugo Monnier, the last players there, would be 2 props. And if they're anything like the speed of Joe Marler, there is no way that they're going to catch Hugo Monnier. So when we talk about 50 metres out, we're not saying 100% it can't be a penalty try from 50 metres out, but it really needs to be quite clear that a try would have probably been scored. So in this instance here, we do have a deliberate knock-on. Without a doubt, we have one, so we do have a penalty. And then we have a yellow card as well, depending on what happens next. But for me, there's too many questions to be answered here. A try may have been scored, but I don't think we can say it is probable because there's a lot of defenders who could have come across and potentially tackled that player who was that distance out. So in this instance here, I would agree that it's not a penalty try, but that's not to say that something 50 metres out definitely can't be a penalty try, but certainly this instance here, too many questions and not a probable try. So no penalty try on this instance.
Thanks so much, Nigel, as ever, and a slight change in the schedule, so we'll be back reviewing after every 2 rounds. So we'll see you in a few weeks' time. It's great to be back. Take care, enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks so much, Nigel, and we'll see you again soon.